Veronica could not sleep all night. She was confused and didn't know what to do. Would Obi truly forgive her? She cried. She had attempted to take the life of her own husband, the man that gave her everything. She didn't sleep all night. She sat curled up in the corner of their master bedroom, her eyes hollow, her arms wrapped tightly around herself like a child afraid of the dark. The silk sheets on the bed remained untouched, and the lamp cast a long shadow that danced across the walls. Obi hadn't come into the room since dinner. She didn't even know where he had gone. Veronica had always believed she could play the game better than anyone, but tonight she was the one in checkmate. How did Obi survive? How did he know not to eat the food? Her plan had been perfect, or so she thought. The dose, the timing, even the acting. But now, the man she tried to kill was walking around the house alive and breathing. Calm. Too calm. That was what scared her most. She covered her face in shame and sobbed. On the other end of the city, in a small serviced apartment in Lekki, Agu paced the living room floor like a lion in a cage. His eyes were bloodshot. His shirt was wrinkled. His phone had been in his hand all night. She said Obi was dead. She called me. I heard her voice. She was crying. She said it was done. He had waited for a follow-up, some news headline, a call from Veronica, a message from one of the estate staff. But instead, silence, and her phone had been off since. He tried over 40 times. Nothing. He lit another cigarette and checked the time. 5:43 a.m. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Could she have been caught? He whispered. Did he survive somehow? His stomach turned with dread. Morning came. Lagos stirred to life, but within Obi Gwankwo's mansion, the air remained cold. Obi stood before the mirror, calmly adjusting the same navy blue kaftan he wore yesterday. His face was unreadable, his silence thunderous. When he stepped into his car and told the driver to head to the office, even Esther, waiting near the gate with her broom, noticed something strange. Not fear, not anger, just stillness. Obi was preparing for something bigger. At exactly 8:42 a.m., Obi walked into the office building. Majestic, composed, alive. The office staff rose to greet him. His manager handed him files. The receptionist smiled brightly. And then, Agu turned the corner. He had been in the hallway, lurking like a man waiting for bad news. His jaw dropped. There he was, Obi, in the flesh, smiling, breathing, alive. Agu stood frozen, mouth slightly open. The hallway spun for a moment. Was it a ghost? Obi extended his hand with a calm smile. Good morning, Agu. You look like you've seen a ghost. Agu shook his hand, sweating beneath his shirt. I didn't expect you to be at the office today. Why not? Obi asked casually. It's just Thursday. Agu swallowed and forced a laugh. Right, just Thursday. Obi walked past him without another word. Inside his office, Agu collapsed into the nearest chair, heart racing. He pulled out his phone and tried Veronica's number again. Still off. Then a strange number called him. He answered immediately. Hello? It's me. Veronica's voice came through breathless. Obi didn't eat the food. Agu froze. What? He pretended. I don't know how he knew. He flushed it, then acted like he died. He was testing me. Agu's legs buckled. His phone is with me, Veronica continued. That's why I couldn't call. He took it. Agu, he knows. He heard everything. He recorded our call. Agu broke into a cold sweat. What are we going to do? He asked, panicking. I don't know, she whispered, but he hasn't said anything. He just watched me. It's terrifying. Agu ended the call and stared blankly at his phone. His plan was crumbling. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Emat afternoon. Agu knocked quietly on Obi's office door. "Come in," Obi said without looking up. Agu entered, heart pounding. "Obi, please, I know you know." Obi raised his head, his eyes cold but steady. "You tried to kill me, Agu," he said. "You slept with my wife. My wife, Agu. And then you both plotted to end my life." Agu fell to his knees. "Obi, I swear it was the devil. I didn't know what I was doing. I was confused. It was a moment of weakness." Obi walked over slowly, staring down at the man who once stood beside him as a brother. "I should have handed both of you to the police," he said, "but I didn't." Agu's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Obi. Thank you." "I wanted to give you a chance to right your wrongs," Obi said, "to change, to walk away." Agu nodded repeatedly. I will, I promise." But Obi wasn't done. He leaned forward. "But if either of you try anything again, not even God will stop me." He turned and walked out, leaving Agu kneeling, shaking. What none of them knew was that the second betrayal was already in motion. Veronica couldn't let go of Agu, and Agu never loved her to begin with. The heavy clouds gathered over Lagos again that evening, as if the heavens themselves were warning of another betrayal. Inside the Wanquo mansion, Veronica stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the diamond necklace Obi had once gifted her on their 3rd anniversary. Her face looked flawless, but behind the beauty, her heart was in chaos. The man she had tried to kill had given her a second chance. He hadn't called the police. He hadn't thrown her out. He had simply said, "Change, or I'll finish it myself." Most women would run. Most women would repent, but not Veronica, because her heart still beat for Agu. Later that night, while Obi was on a business call, Veronica stepped into the bathroom, locked the door, and pulled out a tiny second phone she had hidden behind the water heater weeks ago. She dialed. Agu picked instantly. "You're still alive," he whispered. "I'm barely breathing," she replied. "Obi's watching me like a hawk. He forgave us, but I don't trust him, the way he looks at me." "We can't leave it to chance," Agu said. "You said he flushed the poison, yes? Which means he suspected something." "He did more than suspect. He knows." "Then it's time we finish it once and for all." Veronica hesitated. "You want to try again?" "Yes," Agu said firmly. "No poison, no subtlety. We need to remove him completely. I know someone." "Who?" "A professional. A hitman. Quiet, fast, clean." Veronica swallowed. "You're sure he won't talk?" Agu smiled darkly on the other end. "He doesn't even know who we are. I've used him before." She was silent for a moment. Then, "Let's do it." Anesthesia morning, Esther noticed something odd again. Veronica was humming, cheerful, glowing even, like someone with a fresh purpose. It made Esther shiver. Obi had barely spoken since the poison incident, but Esther could feel it. He was no longer blind. He was watching everything, and he no longer ate anything, except what came directly from her hands. In fact, that same morning, Obi called her into his private study. "Esther," he said quietly but firmly, "from now on, I eat only what you cook, what you serve, nothing else." Esther bowed. "Yes, sir." Then, to her shock, he walked up to her and held her shoulder gently. "I didn't listen to you before," he said, voice low with regret. "But you saved my life, Esther. You did, and I owe you everything." Esther felt tears prick her eyes. "I only did what was right, sir." Obi smiled faintly. That's what makes you different. What Esther didn't know was that Obi already had a plan in motion. Elsewhere in a quiet compound in Yaba, Janet, a soft-spoken university student, sat cross-legged on her bed scrolling through her phone. She was beautiful, quiet, innocent-looking, the type of girl who looked like she couldn't hurt a fly. But Janet wasn't just anyone. She was a trained field agent, specially planted by Obi Wanko himself to monitor Agu. Months earlier, Obi had become suspicious of Agu's lifestyle. Too much travel, secret calls, female names he didn't recognize. So he had sent Janet into Agu's life, posing as a vulnerable university girl who needed financial help. Agu had taken the bait completely. He now confided in her. He told her everything. That evening, as Janet sat by her laptop, her phone buzzed. Agu, baby, it's happening. We're ending it for real this time. Once Obi is gone, we'll leave, together, just you and me. Janet smiled bitterly. She typed back, I can't wait. Then she forwarded the message to Obi. 2 days later, in a discreet hotel lobby in Ikecha, Agu and Veronica met the hitman, a dark-skinned, muscular man with tribal marks on his face and eyes like granite. He went by the name Baba 9. Make it look like robbery, Agu instructed. No noise, no mess. Take him out when he's leaving the office. Baba 9 nodded once. Half now, half after. Don't call me again. They handed him a brown envelope. The deal was sealed. But what Agu and Veronica didn't know, Baba 9 wasn't a hitman. He was another agent, working for Obi. Back in the mansion, Obi pretended not to know anything. He smiled. He kissed Veronica on the cheek. He went to work, as usual, and waited for them to take their final step into destruction. Because this time, he wasn't just watching. He was controlling the game. The next day arrived like any other. Obi Nonkwo left the house in his black Range Rover, wearing his signature navy blue kaftan and dark glasses. The household was quiet, unnaturally quiet. Veronica had barely spoken a word all morning, but Obi acted as if the world was perfect. Have a good day, darling, Veronica called after him from the stairway. He turned slightly and gave her a soft smile. You too, sweetheart. As the car rolled out of the estate, Veronica's smile faded. Today, it would be done. Today, the man who once gave her the world would finally lose it. At exactly 10:30 a.m., Agu met Veronica in a corner restaurant in Victoria Island. The sun blazed through the dusty blinds, but neither of them cared. The hitman is already in motion, Agu whispered, sipping his drink. He'll follow Obi from the office. Wait until he's alone. It'll be fast and clean. Veronica rubbed her palms together. Are you sure we can trust this guy? I've used him before, Agu lied. No traces. She nodded. Once he's gone, she added, we sell the estate, close the insurance claims, and vanish. Agu looked into her eyes and smiled. Together. But his phone buzzed just then. A message from Janet. Janet, have you booked the flight for us yet? Just me and you. Don't forget, I don't want her coming. He smiled, quickly deleted the message. Veronica didn't see it. By noon, the news began to spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Armed robbery at the gate of Obi Wankwo's office. People began to whisper. One of the guards had been tied up. There was screaming, gunshots, and then silence. Veronica sat by her phone, hands trembling. She dialed Agu. "Have you heard anything?" she asked. "I'm trying to reach the guy," Agu lied, "but it's done. I'm sure of it." She ended the call and smiled faintly. It's finally over. Or so she thought. By 6 p.m., Veronica was dressed in a black gown, sipping red wine, waiting for the call from Agu. They had agreed to meet one last time before disappearing from the country. Suddenly, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered quickly. "Hello?" A familiar voice spoke slowly and clearly. "Veronica." She froze. "Obi? You sound surprised." She stood up from the couch, the glass slipping from her hand and crashing to the floor. "You're alive?" "Oh yes," Obi said calmly. "In fact, I just finished lunch. Cooked by Esther, of course." Veronica couldn't breathe. "But the robbery?" "Staged," Obi said. "Orchestrated by me, with a man I paid to act like your hitman. I wanted to see what you'd do if you thought I was dead." Veronica dropped to the floor. "And you failed, Veronica. You failed again." Tears rushed into her eyes. "Obi, please." "Too late," he replied. Then he ended the call. Agu was already waiting at a hotel room in Ikeja. He had 2 passports in his bag. One was his, the other was Janet's. He had no intention of bringing Veronica. She was a stepping stone, nothing more. Janet arrived wearing jeans and a gray hoodie. She looked younger than ever, like a naive student running away with her sugar daddy. He kissed her cheek. "Are you ready, baby?" Janet smiled and sat beside him. Then, calmly, she reached into her handbag and pulled out a police badge. Agu's eyes widened. "Well, what's that?" She showed him a tiny hidden camera pin on her collar. "I'm not who you think I am," she said softly. "I work for Obi Nwankwo." What are you saying?" "I've been with you for months, watching you, listening, recording, everything, from the first poison plan to the hitman you thought you hired." Agu staggered back, eyes wide. "You betrayed me?" "No," she said coldly. "You betrayed yourself." Then the door burst open. 4 armed officers stormed in. "Mr. Agu, you are under arrest for conspiracy to murder, attempted murder, and criminal collusion." Agu screamed as they dragged him away. "Veronica, she was in on it. It was her. She made me." But they were already putting the cuffs on. Back at the mansion, Veronica stood by the window, pacing like a madwoman. Her hands were shaking. Her future was gone. Suddenly, she heard tires screech outside. She rushed to the door. It wasn't Agu. It was Esther and 2 police officers. Behind them, Obi stepped out. Veronica fell to her knees as they entered. "Obi, please! I was weak. It wasn't supposed to be like this." Obi didn't speak. He simply handed the arrest warrant to the officers. "You're under arrest, Veronica Nwankwo," one officer said. "For what?" she cried. "For conspiracy, attempted murder, and coordinating with a fugitive." She screamed as they pulled her up. "Obi, please! I loved you!" He looked at her one last time and said softly, "No, you loved yourself." And then she was gone. The rain started that night without warning. A slow, steady drizzle that washed over the Nwankwo estate, soaking the flowers Veronica once hand-picked, and tapping softly on the windows of a house now filled with silence. Obi Nwankwo sat alone in the study, the same room where Esther had once stood trembling, warning him about poison in a dream. Now the dream was over, but the wounds were just beginning to bleed. Obi didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just stared at the framed wedding photo on his desk. He in a white tuxedo, Veronica in her flowing silver dress, smiling like the world was hers. He traced her image with his thumb. His heart felt like a house after a fire, still standing, but hollow and broken inside. "How could you?" he whispered. "How did we get here?" He had loved her more than anything. He had trusted Agu, his best friend, his brother, his business partner from university days, and now both had tried to erase him from this world. For money, for lust, for selfish dreams. The next morning, Obi requested to see both Veronica and Agu separately. He wanted closure, a final confrontation, not for vengeance, but for his soul. He walked into the holding room at the station, where Agu sat behind a glass divider, eyes red, face swollen from weeping. Obi didn't say a word at first. He just sat, watching. Finally, Agu spoke. "I know what I did can't be forgiven." Obi leaned forward, his voice steady. "No, it can't." Agu dropped his head. "But I forgive you anyway." Agu looked up in shock. "What?" "Not for your sake," Obi said, "but for mine. Because I won't carry your betrayal on my back for the rest of my life." Agu broke down in sobs. But Obi didn't flinch. "I buried our friendship the day you touched my wife. And I buried your memory the moment you paid a man to kill me." He stood up. "That's all I came to say." He left. Then he met Veronica. She looked like a ghost of herself. Makeup gone, eyes swollen, hair undone. She tried to speak, but Obi raised a hand. "Don't." She bit her lip, trembling. "I still don't understand," he said, "even after everything I gave you. Why?" Veronica whispered through tears. "I thought I needed more." "More?" he echoed bitterly. "Wasn't my heart enough?" She collapsed into the chair, sobbing. "Obi, I still love you." He nodded slowly. "But I don't love you anymore." And with that, he walked out and never looked back. That evening, the mansion was calm. No drama, no crying, just peace. Obi called Esther to the garden. She came wearing her faded Ankara blouse, her wrapper tied firmly, face clean and unsure. "You sent for me, sir?" Obi gestured to the seat beside him. She sat carefully, confused. He looked at her with nothing but quiet respect. "Esther, when everyone around me lied, you spoke the truth." She looked down. "It was only a dream." "No," Obi replied. "It was a warning, a second chance, a voice from God, and I ignored it the first time." He paused. "You saved my life, and I want you to know that I will never forget that." Tears filled Esther's eyes. "I didn't do it to be remembered, sir. I did it because it was right." Obi smiled. "And that's why I'm rewarding you." He handed her a white envelope. She opened it. Inside, a letter of full university sponsorship. Obi continued, "You'll go back to school, study anything you want, become anything you dream of. And when you're done, you'll work for me, not as a maid, but as a woman of value." Esther broke into tears. She couldn't speak. Obi stood and gently placed his hand on her head. "Your loyalty is priceless." Later that night, Obi stood on the balcony with a glass of water in his hand. He looked out at the city skyline, the night breeze brushing against his kaftan. He had survived betrayal. He had walked through fire, and he had come out scarred, yes, but not destroyed. The devil had entered his house, wearing the face of his friend and the perfume of his wife. But in the end, it was a poor maid with trembling hands who became his guardian angel. The courthouse was quiet as the trial began. Reporters gathered outside like vultures around a carcass. The headlines had already been written. Billionaire's wife and best friend on trial for attempted murder. Inside the courtroom, Veronica and Agu sat in the defendant's box, each cuffed at the wrist, each avoiding the other's eyes. There was no more love between them, only betrayal, only guilt. And in Agu's heart, a deeper heartbreak was coming, because he was about to discover that the woman he truly loved was never really his. The prosecutor laid the facts bare. The poisoning, the staged hitman, the financial motive, the affair, the insurance policies, and then came the final witness, Janet. She walked into the courtroom wearing a sharp black suit, her badge clipped to her breast. Every camera snapped. Agu's mouth fell open. Janet? She didn't flinch. Mr. Agu, she said coldly, used me as a confidant. He told me about his affair with Mrs. Veronica Nwankwo. He explained their plan to poison Mr. Obi Nwankwo, and when that failed, he arranged an assassin. Lies, Agu shouted. Janet, you... She looked at him with stone-cold eyes. You told me I was your one true love, that we'd escape together. But I was never yours, Agu. I was assigned to you, to listen, to record, to expose you. Veronica's eyes went wide. Wait, what? Janet turned toward her. You were never part of the endgame. He never loved you. He planned to leave you behind. Agu's face cracked like broken glass. He tried to stand, but the guard shoved him down. Everything fell apart in seconds. Veronica screamed. Agu wept. Janet walked away without looking back. Abbas, the judge's gavel, echoed like thunder. In light of the evidence, including audio recordings, financial documents, and witness testimonies, the courtroom held its breath. This court finds Veronica Nwankwo and Agu Obasi guilty of conspiracy to murder, attempted murder, and insurance fraud. Gasps swept through the gallery. Veronica burst into tears. I sentence both defendants to 25 years in prison without parole. Agu collapsed into his chair, stunned. Veronica screamed and had to be dragged out by officers. And Obi? He sat quietly in the gallery, unmoving. When the verdict was read, he closed his eyes and whispered, It's finished. 1 week later, the house felt different. The air was lighter, the garden greener, and the quiet peaceful. Obi called a small family meeting with his staff. Esther stood among them, unsure why she had been summoned. Then Obi stepped forward. In this house, he said, there was betrayal, but there was also truth, and it came from the most unlikely person. He turned to Esther. This woman saved my life. Everyone turned to look at her in awe. From today, Obi continued, Esther is no longer a maid. She is my adopted daughter. Gasps filled the room. Esther's knees gave way. Sir, no, I don't deserve. You do, Obi replied, lifting her gently, because you stood for what was right, even when it could have cost you everything. He handed her a file, your scholarship to any university in the country, and a new name, Esther Obi Nwankwo. She sobbed into his chest as the staff applauded. Later that evening, Obi visited his father's grave. He knelt before the headstone. I almost lost everything, Papa, he whispered, but somehow I survived, and I learned. The people we trust the most can destroy us, but the people we ignore may be the ones God sends to save us. He stood slowly and wiped his eyes. I will rebuild, stronger, smarter, and this time I'll surround myself with people of substance, not style. 1 month later, Obi received a letter from Veronica in prison. Dear Obi, I don't expect your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I have realized my foolishness. Agu never loved me. I see that now. I was greedy, blinded, and I betrayed a man who only ever loved me. If there's a next life, maybe I'll choose differently. But for now, I live with the regret. Forever. Veronica. Obi folded the letter quietly and threw it into the fireplace. 6 months later, since the courtroom thundered with justice, the headlines had faded. The trial was no longer the talk of Lagos. People had moved on. But for Obi Nwankwo, the wounds were still healing, quietly, deeply. Yet, life had not stopped. Instead, a new chapter had begun. Obi stood in the towering glass lobby of his company headquarters, now rebranded Nwankwo Legacy Group. The business had bounced back, faster than even his team expected. But this time, there were new faces, honest ones. No more Agu. No more friends with sharp smiles and secret knives. At the top of his boardroom agenda today, Esther, now wearing a blue blazer, hair neatly braided, face glowing with confidence. She stood before the board, presenting a plan for the company's new scholarship foundation, the Esther Dream Initiative. Obi watched from his chair, silent and proud. When she finished, the board erupted into applause. Obi stood. She was once a maid in my home, he said, but she taught me the meaning of loyalty, of honesty, of courage. Esther is no longer just part of this company, she's part of its future. Tears welled in her eyes. He turned to her. Your dream saved my life. Now it will help others dream too. That evening, Obi stood in his garden, the breeze brushing against his caftan. The same garden where Veronica had once pretended to plant roses. Now, Esther stood beside him, watering real flowers. Peaceful. Calm. Do you still dream, Esther? Obi asked, watching the sunset. She smiled. Yes, but not nightmares anymore. Only hope. Obi nodded. Good. Hold on to that, because dreams are where truth begins. There was a long silence. Then Esther asked, Sir, do you ever think of her? Obi didn't answer at first. Then he spoke, softly. Sometimes, but not with anger, just with understanding. He looked up at the sky. She didn't destroy me. She revealed me. Esther blinked. Sir? He turned to her with a gentle smile. She showed me who I really am, what I'm really made of, and in a way, I thank her. 1 week later, Obi returned to the prison, alone. He didn't tell anyone, not even Esther. He sat in front of the glass divider. On the other side, Veronica was led in, wearing a dull gray uniform, no makeup, no earrings, just hollow eyes. She froze when she saw him. Obi! He raised a hand gently. No need. She sat down. I had to see you, he said, one last time. She swallowed. Why? Because I wanted to say thank you. She stared at him, confused. I thank you for breaking me, because it made me rebuild stronger, smarter, wiser. He leaned forward. I forgive you, but I will never forget you. A tear slid down her cheek. I don't deserve it, she whispered. No, you don't, he replied. But mercy isn't earned, it's given. He stood to leave. She reached for the glass, sobbing. Obi, do you still love me? He paused, then answered quietly. No, but I still pray for you, and I must tell you, I found love again, and it's Esther. Though I have not told her, but I am in love with her. She saved my life, she saved my soul. Without her, I would be dead now. She's a kind girl. She's the type of woman that truly deserves me. I think I'll propose to her. I just had to tell you this. Please forget about me. I wish you all the best. And with that, he walked away. Veronica wept. She had gold, but she lost it on the search of silver. She regretted all her actions, but it was too late. No one would save her now. Later that day, Esther was just in her apartment. She was watching the television alone. She got a call from Obi. He asked her to come downstairs. She was surprised. What would Obi be doing at her apartment? Is everything okay? She asked. Everything is fine, he replied. I just want to see you. It's very important. Without waste of time, she went downstairs, and there she met Obi on his knees, holding an engagement ring, a key to a brand new SUV. Esther, please. I know this is wired, but ever since the day you saved my life, I admired your courage. I owe you my life. In fact, no woman else deserves me but you. I have admired you from a distance. You're such a hard-working woman. I feel you are the perfect mother I will give to my children. Please be my wife. Esther was speechless. She had admired Obi from a distance too. Obi was such a kind man, humble and generous. Without no waste of time, she accepted his proposal. She said yes. That was how the once poor maid would become the wife of a billionaire. That night, Esther stood on the balcony of her new apartment, granted to her by Obi. She looked at the stars, her heart full of gratitude. She whispered, God, thank you for using me, even as a maid. Thank you for the dream. Thank you for truth. Obi came and met her at the balcony. He stood beside her, looking up at the same stars. They had both survived a storm that could have drowned them, but they didn't just survive. They became the proof that the pure-hearted still win in the end.